one of the biggest misconceptions is that you can treat loneliness by increasing social connections. And I read the Surgeon General report, I read all these books, and I think everywhere they're saying, oh, increase public connection with people, create spaces where people can connect with each other. While the data clearly shows that when you, in several trials, if you connect, if somebody's feeling lonely, what happens is they become socially sensitive. So when you bring more people in connection, actually it doesn't improve loneliness.
That's Dr. Amit Sood, founder and executive director of the Global Center for Resiliency and Wellbeing. He's a TEDx speaker. He is a former professor of medicine at the Mayo Clinic and author of his latest book, It Takes Two to Tango. Amit Sood, welcome to the Emotional Longevity Podcast.
Thank you, Elisha. It's lovely to be with you and talk about such an important topic. I congratulate you for picking this theme, emotional longevity.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, I just feel like people in the world right now who are listening right now, most people, whether it's my friends, my family, I talk to people in my community, and there's a great sense of overwhelm with people, a feeling of feeling untethered. You've spent years researching resilience and connection at the Mayo Clinic. So for someone who's listening right now, what do you feel like is the single biggest shift they'll notice in their relationships and even their health if they master or be connected with what you talk about in your book, It Takes Two to Tango?
Yeah, I think you feel you are complete as is. I have a line on my refrigerator which says, "I am enough. I have enough." So that deep sense of contentment, that I am enough, that pervades you, so that then your striving becomes more altruistic rather than egocentric. You work because you want to help, you earn because you want to support, you try to become successful or famous because you want to serve, or you want to support people who are struggling. So life becomes very selfless. From selfless, I don't mean zero self, it's just less of self.
When we got on, we spent a couple minutes talking before this interview began, and I asked you how you're doing, which, a genuine question. And your response was very much like there was a sense, it felt very genuine. There's a sense of, you were saying that there was a sense of contentment and peace and connection that was there. And I was like, wow, that's a beautiful place to be. And what's going to help someone who's listening right now who might be feeling, they're washing the dishes, driving the car, taking the dogs on a walk right now, or maybe just resting and listening to this. How do they start moving just very practically from just the overwhelm, the sense of routine and overwhelm and distress and life is just too much, to the place that you said you've arrived at today?
Yeah, when you go to a restaurant and there is a menu of like 200 items, and do you tell the server, oh, get me the stuff that is the yuckiest here, one that is going to make me sick, and maybe perhaps I'm allergic to that and very expensive, that's what I want. Now, if you let your mind be, that's what mind orders for experience. We have this negativity bias. We focus on what is not going right in our life, our neighborhood, and rest of the world. And so we have a choice. This world is a big menu, and you pick the servings that you order through your attention, which become your experience and eventually become your life. So you really carefully choose what servings you order for yourself. And this is not being Pollyanna. This is basically, as you said, the tea is bitter. The tea of life, the coffee is very bitter. Now, you may like bitter coffee, but you may you may be better off if you add a little bit of honey to it. And that honey is that of gratitude, that honey is that of compassion. Because the chances are, if you are struggling, there's millions, if not billions, of people who are struggling more than you are. This is not to one up somebody or to shame our comfort, relative comfort. This is just to recognize that I've got these, I've done the maths. Elisha, I've got what, 1200, 1500 weeks more left on the planet. And I want to spend that time with purpose, with fulfillment. When I'm leaving the planet, I want to say, oh, that was a blast. I mattered, I made a difference, and I have no one I need to forgive. I want to leave with that thought when I'm leaving the planet. And so, when you're very intentional about how you experience the present moment, what you allow to get past your gateway of attention, then gradually over a period of time, you start living in a different world, um, uh, a world where you see the pain, you see the sadness, but you also see the hope.
Speaking of this world right now, sadness, pain, and there's also hope. So there's all kinds of ingredients that are in there. One of the ingredients that people increasingly are feeling, especially, I would say the research is bearing out the younger generation right now, is that experience of loneliness and disconnection. How from you're you have a medical background. How is loneliness? How does it literally affect our physical health at a cellular level?
Yeah, so there is a certain set of genes which are called, it's called CITRA, or conserved transcriptional response to adversity. And so when you are lonely, those genes start expressing themselves. And so those genes, they code for more pro-inflammatory chemicals, and you reduce the anti-inflammatory chemicals. The purpose is, nature is saying that if you're lonely or at the periphery of the tribe, you're likely to be attacked by predators. So when you're likely to be attacked by predators, there's no point creating antiviral immunity. There is no point creating anti cancer immunity, because that is something that plays out over the long term. And you're lonely, you're not going to catch viral infections. Your system says, my owner should clot his blood quickly because he's going to get wounds. My owner should produce
Mm.
inflammation because he's going to get wounds. He needs inflammation to heal those wounds. And so, guess what happens? Our body becomes inflamed. The blood thickens, predisposing to heart attack and stroke and a number of other cardiovascular conditions. So that is how loneliness, the body's response is superficially adaptive, but it actually becomes maladaptive in modern times, because our proximate causes of mortality are not wounds and attack by predators or even starvation. It is cardiovascular disease, cancer, and such. So the system is working to help us, but it is not wise enough to adapt to modern times.
Typically when I've heard of this, and I've heard, okay, so the negativity bias, and of course, stress is amping up our nervous system to get ready to fight, flight, or freeze. When it feels that kind of like stress response, or when we feel, of course, lonely, we don't want to be isolated because then we're going to be lunch. And so it's underlying that as some stress. But I hadn't heard before the way you described it, how our system becomes proactive in some way, like the idea that it gets ready to collect, it's predicting wounds. And so it's getting ready. So it's creating these inflammatory markers to get ready to protect against physical wounds. That's amazing.
That's what it is doing. It is doing its job. Uh, in fact, the anxiety attack, depression, bipolar condition, um, all of these are brain trying to protect itself. Fear response, it is brain trying to protect you. Pain response, it is brain trying to protect you. But if pain is happening without physical injury, it is just happening because a system is inflamed or the nerves are oversensitive, then it is not helpful. Cough is a very useful response. Cough protects your airways, but chronic hacking cough from allergies or from chronic bronchitis, or people who smoke, that's not helpful. So a lot of these body's responses that are protective, both in terms of creating physical symptoms and generating negative emotions, these protective responses, when they are unleashed without a reason, they then start harming us. And that's what is happening to
It
us.
makes me curious about what's our brain's ability to tell the difference between emotional pain and physical pain. Because yeah,
Yeah. Interesting, right? The pain circuitry is the same. The pain metrics in the brain, the anterior insula, the anterior cingulate cortex, amygdala, that part of the brain combined, they both activate in response to emotional and physical pain. And actually, to some extent, body cannot tell the difference, and that is why people have chronic pain, when they have chronic stress or they become sad or anxious, their physical pain actually gets worse. There is obviously a different percept, because there's a sensory component to physical pain, which goes into the different part of the brain for its evaluation. But in general, there's a lot of overlap between physical and emotional pain, to the extent that in one study or two studies, I recall seeing that Tylenol was helpful for emotional pain.
yeah, I remember that too. Yeah. Well, you're someone who clearly knows the science. You know a lot of science, and you're a researcher, and you know the medical background. What do you feel like is the thing that people typically get wrong when they think about loneliness that frustrates you?
I get sad. I don't get frustrated.
Okay.
So I get sad because everybody is my relative on the planet. And when my dear brothers and sisters are struggling, then it'll make me sad for sure. And when they struggle, their kids struggle. So uh, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you can treat loneliness by increasing social connections. And I read the Surgeon General report, I read all these books, and I think everywhere they're saying, oh, increase public connection with people, create spaces where people can connect with each other. While the data clearly shows that when you, in several trials, if you connect, if somebody's feeling lonely, what happens is they become socially sensitive. So when you bring more people in connection, actually it doesn't improve loneliness.
It stresses them out, creates
It
stress.
stresses them out. So there is two responses. One is protective, the other is connection response. When you feel lonely, you are vulnerable, you are at the periphery of the tribe. So then you become socially sensitive, which actually keeps you in loneliness. So so what happens is that this loneliness fosters negative emotions and actually makes you internally lonely. I am not saying there is no value in social connections. I think the most important part of loneliness is to recognize that it is inner loneliness that we are struggling with. We're struggling with our inability to connect with ourselves. There's an old story I read, which actually prompted me to write this book. It Takes You to Tango,
Hmm.
which was basically a sage was sitting beneath a tree, and a guy, the sage was alone, and the guy, a villager, went to the sage and said, oh, you're sitting alone. I thought I'll give you company, and you must be getting bored. And the sage said, I'm glad to be in your company, but I was with myself, and I really entertained myself very well. I'm a very good company to me. So interestingly, low self-worth, low self-compassion, low self-acceptance, low self-forgiveness, all is strongly associated with loneliness. People who feel worthy, and there's 80% of us who struggle with self-worth right now, 80% of us who struggle with imposterism right now. So so just putting a bunch of people together is not going to take away loneliness. I think we have to get to the core of helping people, helping ourselves with self-worth.
So self-worth, I actually think that we have so much in common because I also see that as a foundation And one of the greatest ailments that most people have, which is a sense of being deficient or defective in some way, or that like something's wrong with them. I almost feel like our culture reinforces that in multiple ways. Like, how do you see that? Make a connection between that, the sense of isolation people feel, and what's the connection with that and disease?
And disease.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, just as we talked about the connection between loneliness and genetic expression and inflammation and reduce cancer surveillance and reduce antiviral immunity. Now, what happens is when you have low self worth, uh, which originates a lot in our basic, again, it's part of our basic design. We have the instinct to compare. That comparison instinct has been, if one tribe was attacking the other tribe, the tribes had to compare. You had to match up with the strength of whether this pack of wolves is worth, fighting or running. And so we have learned to compare. So we compare ourselves, and now that comparison is supersized, we compare ourselves with looks and achievements and number of followers, and I mean, we just compare about everything. And those comparisons create what is called as contingent self-worth, which is basically more self-esteem, where I am good if, and we create criteria, and those criteria keep getting revised as we hit them, versus the other one, which is intrinsic self worth, which is I am complete as a human being. And so you go a little bit deeper than your achievements, your brain, your physical body, and you are focusing, if I may say, on your soul. And you have a very egalitarian mindset where everybody is equal. Now, when you have that egalitarian mindset, everybody is equal, it is very easy for you to connect with others, even when you're surrounded by strangers, because you're not feeling judged, you're not judging anybody, you don't want anything from anyone. You just feel connected to everybody. Uh, Personally, if I'm in a flight, I've got 200 people around me. I don't know anybody. I may not talk to anybody, but I feel they're all my relatives. And so then you don't feel lonely, and you feel, in a certain way, you feel um, an urge to help, to be kind to others. And I believe universe protects the protector. So I think when you have that kind of disposition, when you have sort of a healing presence and a connected presence, you never feel lonely. Your inflammatory gene expression is much lower. Your autonomic nervous system, your vagal tone is all, your heart rate variability is high, suggesting parasympathetic nervous system. Your anti-cancer surveillance is doing well. Endothelium is good. Telomeres are healthy. Whatever parameters you want to measure. So clearly, I think embodying that healing presence would eventually directly be related to health and longevity.
Hey, taking a quick break to let you know I've got a new book coming out called Tiny Shifts. It's about how small, intentional shifts in your emotional health can transform your stress, relationships, and even your longevity. When you join the early access list, you're going to get a free sneak peek of the Tiny Shifts mini guide and weekly insights into the top tools and trends in emotional health. Just head to drelishagoldstein.com slash tiny-shifts-early. If you can't remember that, the link is also in the show notes below. Now let's get back to the episode.
I was going to say, I mean, so I try and make the argument that we all know that sleep, nutrition, and exercise are key aspects to our health, strong body, health span, longevity. And I make the argument that, and that's all true, and emotional health is the cornerstone to that, because for all the inflammatory markers that you talked about, all of those have a lot of science and research behind why each one of them is critical and important. But typically, if we're not feeling well, if we're feeling disconnected, isolated, depressed, anxious, it's a lot harder to sleep well. we don't typically follow through very well with our exercise routine, or we overexercise or overcompensate, or maybe we're an athlete and it doesn't really help us so much anymore anyway because we can't more exercise more than we do. Um, and our relationships typically suffer, and connection, like you were saying, is at the epicenter of feeling well. Also, Bob Waldinger's research at Harvard, has said that, his longitudinal research. Um, by the way, how do you measure loneliness when you measure it?
Oh, so there is that UCLA loneliness scale.
Mhm.
For me, it's very simple. I don't go by the number of people. Or do you feel satisfied with the number and depth of connections you have in your life? And you can create over a scale of 1 to 10, and that would be your answer. It is very individual. Uh, our Some people are lonely with, like my mother. I joke that she's about 100 pounds. She's 90 years old. Half her body weight is her vocal cords. She likes to talk, and she likes to talk. And she may have chatted with 20 people this morning, and then she is hungry for connection again in like half an hour. And I think that's what keeps her robust and going. The other thing is she's a yoga grandmaster.
Mhm.
So she has amazing social appetite. So does my 20-year-old daughter. She has amazing social appetite. And if she is not connected with many people in a day, she will feel lonely, both of them.
Uh,
But my social appetite, I'm guessing your social appetite may be smaller. So it's very individual. And to me, breadth is helpful, that variety in social connection, but depth is even more important. As they say, single rose can be my garden. So a couple of deep, meaningful connections during the day, uh, that's plenty for some people.
well, I've heard that before. You only need a handful. You only need, as long as there's a strong perceived connection, or a single rose, like you said, maybe less than a handful. I've also heard this come out, and I've looked a little bit at the science and research around it. This idea that loneliness is as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Like, what's the reality of that? Can decide delineate that for us a little bit.
Yeah, so basically, this is coming out of epidemiologic studies where they look at what is the attributable risk to smoking in terms of its impact on longevity versus loneliness, and the number comes about to be similar. And I do believe that that may indeed be true, if not through the direct effect, because loneliness, perceived loneliness, when you're feeling lonely, there's a lot that goes along with it. I mean, you feel sad, you feel vulnerable, you feel fearful, you start lacking purpose. I mean, there could be days when you may be by yourself working and you don't feel lonely if you have a purpose driving. Inherent to feeling lonely is that you are lacking a little bit of clarity of purpose about what to do, right? And you are also lacking hope. And with all those negative emotions, you might grab some calorie dense food. You are more likely to be sitting for a long time, your blood pressure might go up, etc. So all of that complex, which you can easily believe how that will be as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, if not more, I feel.
So I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this. I'm someone at home or on a walk or doing their dishes, or wherever it is. I'm listening and I'm saying, like, okay, I feel like I have relationships in my life. I don't know. Think I have good friendships, but I do feel alone. Still, there's still a feeling of feeling alone for some reason. Why do you think that is?
Because when I am surrounded by people, I feel judged. I do not feel connected because I am judging them. And so I have a very simple practice that I sometimes invite people to try. I mean, the reality is every person is special and it's struggling. I call it kind attention practice. And the interesting part is within 100 milliseconds of looking at each other, we have made a judgment about whether I'm going to trust this person, whether this person is likable, and so on. So the practice is very simple. I think if you choose to silently bless people the moment you see them, uh, replace that judgment with silent blessing. And it's silent, you're not saying it, you may not even see them. So what happens is
What does
when
that
you
sound? What does that sound like? A silent blessing? What does that? What do you mean by that? Before we,
So, for example, when I'm looking at you right now, I just soften my eyes, and I just in my mind, I just say, Elisha, I wish you well. I wish your life is full of joy. I wish you find and fulfill your purpose. I wish your family is safe and healthy. I just wish you well. That's all. Because I know that if you are happy and if you will do good in the world, which will just sort of spread goodness. Uh, but I'm being selfish here. The way I'm being selfish is that when I wish you well, I'm wishing myself well. You may or may not catch my good wish, but I'm catching my silent kindness, and I feel uplifted. I feel good about myself.
Mhm.
I find you as a friend, and I find the grocery clerk as a friend. I find other people shopping around me, or people who are standing with me in the elevator, or people who are driving on the road with me, some crazy, some disciplined. I find them all connected to me. And so I've made this silent connection with people who I don't even know, who are strangers to me. And so then you will start smiling. A very simple practice I sometimes share, in addition to what I just mentioned to you, is smiling with your eyes. So your eyes have frown muscles in the center, procerus and corrugator supercilii. When you contract them, your right prefrontal cortex and the limbic circuitry activates. When you contract your orbicularis oculi, which are the Duchenne muscles, then you activate the left prefrontal cortex. This is Richie Davidson's research from Madison, Wisconsin, a little bit older research. So just walk in the mall or take a drive and just keep your eyes smiling, and you will activate the area of the brain that feels connected, and your loneliness will get better.
So what?
uh, so I think those are some simple tricks, but I think a deeper part is when you are at a party. If you are the DJ or if you are the host, then you are fully engaged. So when you feel like your presence on the planet is has a deep purpose, the way you were the reason you were created in the universe has a deep purpose, and you are seeking and fulfilling it, then you get so immersed in that activity that you have no time to feel lonely.
Ah,
I know I'm being idealistic a
so
little
so
bit
per,
because
per
there's a journey to that place.
yeah. So purpose is is inversely correlated with loneliness because it's also the purpose. You feel like you're connected to something greater than yourself at the same time. By the way, what's your that I want to say it's called a trick, but it's like what's your how do you, for someone who's listening right now, because I thought that was actually, I remember that research by Richie Davidson, positive emotions on the left prefrontal, uncomfortable emotions on the right prefrontal, to some degree. What do you do to make those Duchenne muscles in the side of your eyes lift? Like, how do you go about doing that? Someone's listening right now, going, I can't really, they're kind of squinting their eyes. Like, what's the movement towards that?
Yeah. So what I have done is I've got some core personal activities I do. For example, if I'm in a meeting, there's two things I do. One is I keep good neck posture, so I try not to lean into the computer, because every time you flex your neck by, let's say, 10 degrees, you're increasing the load your neck muscles have to lift by about 10 pounds. So someone who's really leaning into a laptop, they are lifting about 40 to 50 pounds.
Whoa, that is a good thing to know.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 people have chronic neck pain because we're not using our neck muscles well. This is called tech neck. So keeping your neck straight. So that is one thing I do. And the second thing I do is I smile with my eyes. So whenever I catch myself, when I'm sitting alone, whether I'm driving, I'm watching a movie, I'm talking to someone, I'll just say, I'm going to smile with my eyes and look at whatever I'm seeing with greater fondness. The other day, elder daughter and I were walking on the driveway, and there was this beetle that was just walking from one end to the other, and we spent 20 minutes enjoying its dance, smiling at the beetle. And we danced like that. We mimicked beetle's dance. So uh, so i think i think preserving that sense of curiosity for the littlest thing that we come across, every single day, and engaging deeper with whatever our purpose is, recognizing that it will never be perfect. I was talking to my dad the other day. My dad is 90. He has got chronic GI issues. He's
Yes.
fine with me sharing that. Every Indian man who is 90-year-old has chronic GI issues.
Yeah.
Actually, every Indian man above age 50 has chronic GI issues, by the way. But nevertheless, so he was complaining about that. And I said, okay, first of all, you've beaten most of your classmates and others. You are someone. And what are other 90-year-old men talking about? Some are on dialysis. I mean, people are struggling, right? So, would it be fair that you had no symptoms, zero symptoms? Would it be fair for nature to give you zero symptoms? He said, that's right. I think I should have some symptoms. Right? So I challenge you, I challenge myself. Will it be fair if my life had no challenge? Will it be fair I never had back pain or sore throat or fever or financial loss or other challenges? No, it won't be fair. So now, am I welcoming those? No. Am I welcoming a flat tire? No. But I'm accepting it. So I'm not fighting those things. I'm saying, okay, I'm human. I'm going to have negative emotions. I'm going to experience losses. I'll have pain. I will have all of that. And I'm not going to fight it. I will embrace it, and I will preserve my sanity and strength through it and be a source of energy. So I have a colleague who, and I'll stop right there, who was actually with her nephew who had a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his head. He was waiting for his organs to be harvested. And so we have this whole resilience program. In that program, Tuesday is our day of compassion. So it was a Tuesday. And she said, I was feeling so distraught, so miserable. But then I thought, I remember it's Tuesday. So I shifted to compassion for him, compassion for the staff, compassion for his parents. I was angry for them that they did not really listen to his emotional pain. But then I switched to compassion and I found a much better place. I became a source of strength rather than drawing energy from others.
Yeah, it was interesting as I listened to you. I'm so drawn into what you're saying that I found myself leaning forward, and then I immediately brought myself back up, noticing the load I was putting in my neck as I was listening to you.
I'm not judging. It's okay. And it's
No,
a
no,
long.
no. But this is the power of relationship. I think is like I wouldn't have been cued to that had you not said that a moment ago, and been able to kind of correct myself. We kind of do it. We do kind of do it both ways. I guess it's the power of behavioral and emotional contagion. But in this case, you gave me an insight. Um, yeah, walk me through this for a second. Because I love this idea of like it takes you to tango, which means what I'm taking away from that, and there's so much in your book. What I'm taking away from that is like, hey, we're only responsible for our own. We have to take responsibility for our own self in this life. We have agency. We're not a victim. You can do this. So I'm at a party and or I'm at a work event or whatever, and there's a bunch of people around me, and I'm just feeling like, oh my God, this is like a little too much. I'm feeling kind of tired. I'm feeling disconnected. And you walk me through like what's two things, like what's happening in my brain in the moment. And then the second thing is like, what kind of shift can I make to move from this sense of feeling disconnected to more genuine connection?
Yeah. So what's happening is you are experiencing cognitive and emotional fatigue from sensory overload, possibly at that moment. And you certainly are reward depleted. No, because nobody has talked to you, nobody has listened to you, nobody has praised you. We love to be praised, we love to be validated. Nobody has approached to talk to you, so you feel like, am I not attractive enough?
No, wait,
I'm
let me pause this because I'm in this scenario. Let's say I have been talking with somebody, but I'm talking with somebody. I don't. I don't know, maybe I don't know them too well, and it feels
Okay.
like small talk. And, but I'm feeling like not that connected with people. I'm feeling
Yeah.
tired and exhausted by it.
Yeah, thank you for redirecting me. So, so when I see you, what I might do with you, let's say the two of us are in a party and we are not getting connected, and I actually came to know that you had rejected my research grant, 6 years ago, and I carry a little. And you've never smiled at me as we have crossed, path several times. So I'm going to see you as a 2-year-old. I'm going to see how, when I'm looking at you, I'll look at, okay, how would Elisha be looking as a 2-year-old? Uh, and I might imagine you, and I will think about all the challenges you may have gone through childhood. Uh, you may have had your first crush that got rejected, and the second crush got rejected. You may have had your timeouts and uh, the first smoke, the first time you were caught doing something, and etc., etc. So I'll think about you that way, to remember the innocent you that is there hiding somewhere. I might also look at you as a 90-year-old. You have a walker, or maybe you're very healthy and stout, but you're certainly more feeble. You're wiser. Not that you're already wise, but you are still wiser. You're
I have
more
some GI
accepting.
issues.
Some GI. Yeah, and you are you're just settled human being who has so many stories to tell. So then I say, okay, am I, if you annoy me or if you feel superficial to me at this point, am I willing to connect to this person who will be a 90-year-old someday, or who was a 2-year-old someday? And I'll get curious naturally when I'm thinking this way. In the process, I'm exercising my agency. I'm not letting you influence how I perceive my world, or even you. I find you tremendously interesting because I'm choosing to find you interesting. You have a story worth a trilogy in your head, which will come out if I am genuinely, authentically interested and kind towards you. Right. So I do that, and it has never failed me so far.
So I want everyone who's listening right now, like, listen to these things that Amit talks about, where these are just small, these are like just little shifts that you're making, whether it's, whether it is looking at people and sending them a blessing, like informally in the moment, or like some kindness, or whether it is, um, having kind of tired in a social situation, and then choosing, being aware of that, and then choosing, like, well, I'm going to see this person or I have a conflict with this person. Maybe I can see this person as a 2-year-old. It's a very intentional pivot that you're making to support something within yourself, which can be a sense of connection. You would rather arouse connection, and so you're very intentionally pivoting a little bit to arouse connection within you, curiosity and connection, which feel better, feel healthier, and feel better. So you have these, like, in your arsenal, or then that's not the best analogy. But you have these in your two, in your they're within you. Um, is there what else is there anything else that you would pivot to move to genuine connection with people?
Yeah, yeah. I think one line, which is perhaps the most important line in relationships, and that is, I like you for who you are. I love you for how I feel about myself in your presence. So almost every person wants to feel worthy, wants to feel good about themselves. So I think what you can do is, uh, trying to leave a person who you touch a little better than they were before they met you. uh, Try to find a way you can help them feel worthy. It
Ah,
could be simple validation, it could be a genuine praise. It could be seeking their opinion, their expertise. It could be um, asking for directions. It could be asking for their feedback on something. It could be sharing a joke. It could be direct praise. It could be asking them or reminding them when you had met last time and that you remembered them, what they said, uh, or asking them about their family. So if you can leave, it's like a butterfly visiting, or a butterfly visiting a flower. When a butterfly visits a flower, they both exchange. It's not that the butterfly or a bee is collecting the nectar. The bee is collecting the land nectar, and bee is also pollinating. They both leave, you know, separate from each other. They both are better off, and both leave each other undisturbed. I think that is the kind of connection that would be ideal, that will be affiliative.
I think one of the things that plagues us a bit is because I'm listening to you and I'm like, and I can hear a lot of people saying, well, they're not kind to me, or I haven't gotten that from them, or they wouldn't do that to me. They wouldn't bless me. Or, I don't know, they barely pay attention to me. Why should I, why should I be this way to them? And from what I'm hearing from you is like that it's completely missing the point, but we get stuck in that. Why do we get so stuck in that? Like, why do people get so, like, well, if I'm not getting it, then, they're missing the point of their own health. Like what? Talk to us about that, because I think that happens a lot.
It's fair, but not helpful. There's a lot of things that are understandable but not helpful.
Can I draw a little? I'm going to draw a little frame around that for a second.
Yeah.
Because what you did was it was valid. It felt validating, and you threw some reality on that. That's fair, but not helpful. So,
Exactly.
we do. There's a
Exactly.
simplicity to that, and then that can like land on someone and think, "Is that true?" Yeah, okay, maybe it is. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to chat. Do you want to be the child in the room or the adult in the room? So when you and they both say that, this person is not kind to me, but you're both kids in the room, but you can choose to be the adult in the room, and you can choose to appeal to the good side of the other person. It'll work, I'm telling you, 95% of the time. It won't work with 5% of people, and that's okay. uh, but you're going to be successful with 95% of the people, and you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it for anybody else. You walk away humming that you helped somebody feel worthy. You help feel felt you have helped feel connected to someone, and that actually has a transformative effect on your relationships. See, my goal at the end of the day is I want to close my eyes when I'm sleeping, and I pray. This is what I like to do when I sleep. I think about someone who I saw who was struggling, and I pray for them. I do believe in prayer. There is clinical data that it helps, though it goes beyond what is easily measured by
It helps
science.
us, or it helps the person you're praying for.
It's a spiritual question. It definitely helps us. Uh, the human in me believes it helps the other person too. The scientist has no clear evidence about it. A few clinical trials have not been very positive
I think
there, but who
Larry
knows?
Dasa used to do some kind of clinical trials
Yeah.
around that, but I don't know if there was efficacy. I mean, I don't know if that was.
Yeah, Andrew Newberg, I think, also maybe have done some studies
Mhm.
there. So it helps us for sure. But nevertheless, I think the idea basically is, uh, uh, when I'm resting in bed at night, I do not want to feel like uh, I did not tell the people I love that I loved them. That I saw someone who was struggling and I did nothing to help. I don't want to have that feeling. I feel very guilty that way. Guilt is a helpful emotion, by the way, at times. And don't want anyone who I need to forgive or who I need to seek forgiveness from. I want my account to be like when they play ping pong, it starts with love all. I want to have love all at the end of the day. So that's my priority. It's very selfish. It gives me good night's sleep.
What do you say to the person who says, "Okay, yeah, I feel guilty all the time about the state of the world and the people I see who are suffering around me, and
Yeah.
whenever someone asks me to do something, I say yes because, I otherwise I feel guilty."
Yeah, I think the good people feel guilty. Uh, if you are an extremely selfish person, you will have zero guilt in life. I think it's healthy to feel a little bit of guilt, because guilt drives action. So what I try to do is convert my guilt. First of all, understand where my guilt is coming from, and I'm a full section on this actually in the Tango book, and convert my guilt into compassion
Mhm.
and learning and action. So convert your guilt into, uh, where is this coming from? Is it fair for me to feel guilty? Like my car hit a squirrel. Common humanity. Is it happening to thousands of people today? Yes. Did I intentionally do it? No. But I still feel bad. Maybe I might offer a prayer for that little squirrely whose stash of nuts will not go used. uh, but they'll become
Someone else will eat
trees.
them.
Sorry.
Someone else will eat them.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah.
become trees. They say
Yeah.
lots of trees were actually seeded by that. So I think convert your guilt into lesson, into action, into compassion.
Hmm.
There is no point. There are people who have a high predisposition to guilt because they were made to feel guilty when they were young. They internalize that feeling. It became their life script that they are unworthy and not easy to get out of it. But there is a path. Convert your shame into guilt, guilt into action, compassion, and lesson.
Confirm your shame into guilt, which means that confirm that something is wrong with me into something was wrong with some action or something like that. Like I did something wrong versus something's wrong with me, to convert guilt into what?
Yeah, so shame is this apple has a bad area, so the apple is bad. No, the apple is not bad. There's a small core. I'm going to take it out. Shame to guilt is basically use the language. If you say everything is fine with me, that I yelled at my child for no reason, no, that's not true. But there is no point saying that I'm a bad parent. That's shame, right? And then you say, in this situation, oh, I lost my patience and I shouldn't have. I feel guilty about it. That's you converted your shame into guilt.
Okay.
Now that is actionable, manageable. Now you understand, why is this happening? Is it happening because I'm stressed out at work? I'm arguing with my spouse. I have financial constraints. I'm concerned about the world or something else. So I'm converting that into a lesson. And I've done this. I've yelled at my daughter and I showed up at her school with flowers at her elementary school, pulled her out of the class and said, I'm so sorry, honey, I was a jerk this morning. So I converted that into action. And the $15 bouquet
Positive
that I
action.
bought, positive,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, I can't keep buying $15 bouquets every day. So next time, yeah, oh, this is an expensive, and I have to go back from work to do that. So that's a negative incentive. Not,
Yeah.
it incentivizes you not to yell.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's a kind of a classic way to work with guilt is the apology and then do something nice for the person. If it's founded guilt, but you were talking a moment ago about unfounded guilt. You were saying the person who grows up to make them who feels they're guilty, who that's the person says yes to everybody at their own expense, and they're never good enough. And I think that's the tough one to work with. You said it's
Yeah,
workable, and that's where you were saying turn guilt into action, action into no, sorry, shame into guilt, and guilt into action. I think that's what you had said.
yeah, that's the path.
Yeah.
And you need, I think, when you have imbibed low self-worth because you were reminded many times as a child, when your identity was forming, and you grow up with that identity, with those eyeglasses, you look at the world, then I think it's very important to uh, work with go back to the core, and that is work with your self-worth. And that takes a little bit of effort to undo, because it's sort of a life script that is sort of written, but it can be undone for sure.
You and I, before we got on this call, we were also talking about technology, and one of the benefits of technology is that you can scale. And you've worked with variety of organizations, systems, not just individuals. Um, And when you try and bring in the argument about supporting these organizations from the inside out with increasing a sense of connection and belonging, or these types of resiliency skills, how do you, because organizations are bottom line oriented oftentimes, and so how do you connect the ROI to those types of to saying we can increase connection within your company? So we're going to put some initiatives in here. How do you connect the ROI to that?
Yeah, I think thankfully now, when I started about 15, 18 years ago, it was more difficult. Now we have data. For example, if you lose one top leader, or if you lose one physician or one nurse, how much does it cost the organization? I think losing a couple of important people equals the entire cost of the program for like 5 years. So I think that by itself, not to mention patient complaints, who patients are upset with, not the physician who may not know the answer. It is the physician who is rude and who has ego and who makes the patient feel small, right? I think a lot of what we share is basically being a decent human being to each other. When we talk about connections, it is not just about hanging out and going to a bar together. It's about respect. It is about kindness. It is about trust, and it's about friendliness. So those are the core themes: respect, kindness, trust, and friendliness. And when you have that as a part of organization, I mean, there is reams and reams of data on organizations with high trust versus low trust, their
Hmm.
performance, their stock performance compared to S&P 500, their profit metrics. um, we have good data now, uh, with psychological safety, which is another way of measuring respect, in terms of the impact of psychological safety on innovation, on creativity, on adverse boardroom behaviors and stuff like that. And we definitely have data also on health outcomes. So how much money have I spent ever on marketing? $0. I have never gone and talked to anybody to take anything, buy anything. I will not do that. I think the data speaks for itself. I think when people are not interested or inclined, or they're pre-contemplative, well, I just move on, because life is, you've got a finite time and finite energy through the day. You can't move someone from pre-contemplative to action. There was someone I met, a CEO of a large company, uh, who I'm talking about the mindset. So who went through some of the ideas I've shared with you in a structured way. And he said, "Oh, this was very helpful to me. This will be helpful for my family, and I'll apply it, in my work. But I can't let my employees go through this." I said, "Why?" "I'm just curious." He said, "Because they will lose the edge.
To
They will
lose the
lose the
edge. Yeah, that's
competitive
the
edge."
argument.
I
Yeah.
said, "Okay." Uh, it's a very short term, uh, naive, look at the world, I think.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the same. It's interesting. It's the same. It reminds me of research by Kristen Neff when she was doing her research on self-compassion. And a lot of people felt like that, or when mindfulness was trying to go into corporations, they're like, well, our employees will lose our edge, or we need to bring out the stick, because if you bring out the carrot, or if you teach them these soft, gooey, squishy things, they're not going to be as effective. And her research actually showed the opposite. It showed that when people felt more fortified, they were able to focus better. They were able to work with the teams better. Um, so it is interesting how I think it's in this culture anyway that yeah, we do still have that. We need to be hard on ourselves and use that stick, um, instead of strengthening ourselves from the inside out. Well, another thing I just wanted to touch on before we end, because I'm aware of our time, is we're in a culture right now where I think we are seeing, and the data is showing among certain segments, especially in Western countries, in particular, like a decline in well-being. And there's certain older groups that actually aren't showing that decline, which is interesting. But most of the rest of the population sort of is, especially the younger group. And in a world where therapy is kind of expensive for most people, that's not accessible. We have a problem with that. How do you see bringing these types of skills and making them more accessible to everyone, or supporting this that'll
Yeah,
help it?
I'm very optimistic and hopeful with the younger generation because they really value well-being, and I feel like they will create a world that will be much more egalitarian and that will be much more well-being centric. Now, I often share with people is when you're hungry, you can eat a bowl of sugar. That's going to make you, satiated for like 10 minutes, but you'll be hungry again. Or you eat the whole oatmeal or some nice food, which will be good for next 6 hours. So what we need is that nice deep food where we are eating the sugar of video games and all these superficial uh, whatever that does not nourish the deep being within us. And the deep being within us actually pines for, is hungry for the deeply human positive emotions which come from pursuing purpose, seeking mastery, experiencing flow, expressing compassion uh, selflessly to someone who you do not depend on. You can be compassionate to be someone who you depend on, or you can be compassionate to someone you have nothing to do with. To be grateful for the ordinary, to be grateful even for adversity, to accept the future, not just the past or present, to forgive, have the instinct to forgive, and to wake up every morning and look at the mirror. Look in the morning, you look at the mirror, you say, you are a good human being, and a negative thought is unbecoming of you. So I think when we get that deep meal, for the which is what really nourishes our soul. You can consider soul as the deepest part of your mind or the best self within you. I think then you're well, uh, and then you don't plunder the planet with excesses. Then you don't need to fly uh, you know in your own corporate jet, because I'm all for people earning a lot and being wealthy and all that. But I think it's important to remember that uh, the carbon footprint of a person who is
Hmm.
flying privately is about 16 times or more compared to economy. So I think living a conscientious life.
It seems almost like there's so much going on in the world right now between the global wars, the uncertainty around AI, um, job market. What will the job market be? Some people say it's the best time to be an entrepreneur in the world. Other people say, well, there's going to be a whole swath of people losing their job.
Yeah.
Um, and the climate change actually takes a huge backseat to all of those things right now at the moment because those seem so urgent and in our
Yeah.
face, even though that's a huge urgent issue. And uh, so this idea of scaling um, emotional health, I imagine has to take technology to help
Mhm.
do that. So, what role do you see AI playing in the if you have any insight into this in the I don't know coming months and years as far as being part of that scale?
I can say something sounding like an expert, but I'm not.
Yeah.
As much as
Well,
I understand,
personal opinion, not
personal
non
opinion.
expertise.
Yeah,
We're all amateurs. I think even the people who
yeah.
are working in the AI spots are still like they don't know.
Exactly. We don't know what the future will bring. Um, uh, I think when we built airplanes, we flew them only when we knew that we could land them. When we built
Yes.
automobiles, we drove them only when we knew we could put a brake on them. But not so with many technological advancements. We
Mhm.
think about safety as an afterthought. And I think that is something we need to think through very well as we accelerate. The problem is the cat is out of the bag. um, I strongly believe in U.S. leadership, responsible leadership from responsible countries, and I strongly believe U.S. is a responsible country that wants good of the world, and so I think we have to continue to lead. We have to continue to innovate and make sure we do it responsibly. We minimize collateral damage. There's going to be some collateral damage that will happen, but not something that is mission critical. Uh, and if because if we stop leading, someone else will lead, and someone else may not have the best interest of the entire planet in their minds. So I know this. I just don't want to veer political at all, but and I'm not saying I doubt others' interests, but I think I love the way overall the accountability and the governance works in our nation, and or any country that has that kind of governance, I think should be taking the lead. So developing these technologies with that sense of responsibility and not greed and not fear. We do not. I personally do not fear AI. I think AI needs to be understood and harnessed for the benefit of mankind. It's invariable. It's here. Like I hear books saying, um, let's shift, smart, do not give kids smartphones until age, whatever, 16, and do not expose them to social media until age 14. Well, 95% of kids age 13 to 17 are on social media. So good luck with that. So we
Yeah.
need solutions that are practical, that are actionable, and that's why I'm saying it. Would the world have been okay without AI? Probably so. We would have been equally happy. There's really no single technology that is going to make us any more happy incrementally. Um, but now that it is here, I think we need to develop it responsibly, and I think people with rational minds should be leading it.
Yeah, it's tough because these, everyone, all these companies are trying to one up each other as fast as possible, and so the the break idea. Well, we'll see.
It's a
And
small world after all. We are Carl Sagan in 1970, late 1970s, when he had this Voyager, he took a selfie of the planet, the small blue dot or the pale blue dot. If you look on the internet, when you look at planet Earth from Neptune, it is like 0.15 pixel on this huge firmament. And so we are so small, so tiny. And I think keeping that perspective in mind, it's very humbling.
I was telling my son as we were walking, one of my youngest son's 10 years old, and we were walking. I'm like, we could be, just so you know, we could be our galaxy, this whole multiple galaxy could be underneath the fingernail of a huge giant that's there, and we have no idea.
I think I think it's good to stay humble with that awareness, and I think we have finite time, all of us, so we should not postpone joy and not bypass kindness. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
make the most of what this moment today has to offer.
If for anything, out of and like you said, you're being selfish sometimes. Like if for anything, because uh, by the way, it's only going to support your health, and yes, it will be better for everyone else too. But feel free to be selfish about it if you want to, because yes, it's a benefit to all. If your prayer, blessing, or kind wish in your mind does that somehow actually reach somebody, great. Otherwise, there's something that support and when you feel, this is what I get too. if it supports your emotional health or physical health, and then you come in contact with that next person, your kid, your spouse, a stranger, and you're in a better place, well, then that's going to rub off on them. So it's like, then there's a contagion, that happens.
So I sometimes invite people to say, you have 3 kids, I have 2 kids. How do you want the world to be looking at your kids when they're going to school, when they're going to college? Do you want the world to be silently blessing them? Or do you want the world to be judging them or looking at their appearance? And if the answer is you want the world to be looking at your children with kindness, with soft eyes, with blessing them, with trying to protect them, then that's how you should look at the world. So look at the world the way you want the world to look at your kids.
I
If
love
we
that.
all did that, then your kid will be loved by the world as much as you love them.
It's not a big lift. It's
Mhm.
a small thing you're doing. It's not a heavy energy to do this type of thing. But do you believe, would you tell someone, well, you're not really feeling it, fake it till you make it? Would that be something you would suggest?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I do that. Smiling with eyes works. I
Hmm.
didn't believe that until I participated in laughter yoga. I thought
Oh,
it
yeah, I
was
love
just
that.
all fake and people are just laughing, and I participated and I was actually laughing for no reason. I don't do that. Yeah, I gotta have a very good reason to tickle my my positivity. But no, I do believe that um, I think I think it's better than nothing. Authentic is better than fake, at least when it comes to positivity and so on. But having said that, and I know you talk about that, positivity should not be toxic. There is a place for negativity too. It has to
Hmm.
be authentic.
Yeah.
You don't just you don't basically cover up a boil with a band-aid, saying everything is okay. So you have to call out when something is wrong or bad. But it but I know we were talking about a different context, because sometimes what happens is when I talk about positivity, people construe that as sort of not as denying the negativity. Absolutely not. uh, as I had said earlier, the tea is bitter. The tea
Hmm.
is bitter for me. The tea is bitter for you. The
Yeah, you're
question is,
naming it. Right.
can I put some honey in it so that I can keep drinking it?
My metaphor that I talk to my community with is like life is a soup. You taste the soup, something about it tastes off. It's bitter. You can't take the ingredient out of the soup because it's already mixed in there, but you can add some things in there to balance it out.
Yeah,
And so, what do you need to add in there? Yeah, I
fair
love
enough.
that.
Fair
Uh,
enough.
I'm aware of our time. So grateful for you spending this time with us. I again, what I'm so taken with you, Amit, is these small things. I mean, you make it so simple to just say, can you try this? Can you try that? Can you try this? Shifting your mind to this or trying doing that. And it's like these little things are um really can really be powerful. And imagine if you did them with some level of repetition and made them a little bit more implicit. Like that would be incredible. What would you say to somebody who's listening right now who is feeling more deeply lonely and disconnected in their life? Maybe they feel like they've tried everything and nothing seems to work. Like what would you say to them?
Um, Certainly, uh, uh, I could say that you're not alone. It is a perception. You are connected, but I would start first with validating the feeling that it is basically see your feeling as a symptom, as it's not a personal weakness. It is coming out of your desire for greater connection. Uh, Recognize that even the smallest road in the smallest town is eventually connected to the highway. So you just pick the next road, that pick the next turn, and then the next turn, and the next turn, and you will find the highway eventually. recognize that the way you are feeling, truly millions of people are feeling exactly the same. So you're not alone in this, and you can definitely find someone. And a very simple practice that I like to do is to counting kindness. Think about the last few acts of kindness you have done, and that immediately can sometimes lift your energy. And finally, keep in mind that you have been placed in this universe, not on the planet, in this universe for a purpose. There is a plan for all of us, and that plan is amazing. And if it is not evident to you, it will be at some point. You just have to keep going and keep looking for it.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Tell us where we can find It Takes Two to Tango, where we can find more about you and like what you're doing and your programs.
So my life's mission is to help build a kinder, happier, more hopeful world for all children. So that is my mission. My website is amitsood.com, my name, or resilientoption.com. You'll reach the same place. The books are pretty much where books are, mostly online on Amazon, and few are mentioned on the website. Uh, so I provide individual keynotes and all those things, and write books. I train trainers for resiliency. I am working at UC Berkeley as an industrial fellow. I provide resilience solutions for Mayo Clinic and for a number of companies, and for a number of schools. I'm working I'm teaching a trainer program for college students. I also work with a company out of New York to provide resilience consults to executives and others. And my most recent passion is actually uh, working on parenting. I've continued to enjoy raising two daughters. One is a senior in college, and the other is a ninth grader. So I've been very intentional about preserving their attention, their emotions, their connection, their self-worth. Those are the four anchors. So I'm developing a whole a solution around parenting. I'm calling it parenting in pencil, because it's adaptive, because every child is different. Every child, as they move through life, is different. I think high quality parenting is the single most important thing we can do on this planet to change the future of mankind.
Well, so something for us all to look forward to from you as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Amit. I really appreciate it. And with all the things you just talked about, and you found time to be with us today. So I really appreciate
No,
that.
no, it's my privilege, and my deepest heartfelt wishes to all your listeners and to you for a beautiful today and tomorrow and forever.
Okay. Thank you. Look forward to doing it again.
Yes, take care,
Bye.
Aisha.
Hey, thanks for joining me on this episode of the Emotional Longevity Podcast. I hope you found it as inspiring and thought provoking as I did. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to hit like down below, subscribe to this channel, and share it with someone you know who could benefit from these insights. Your support helps us grow this incredible community and reach more people who need it. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to go deeper, if you're ready to truly integrate these ideas into your life, I'd love to invite you to join me in a beautiful, supportive community that's doing this transformative work together. It's a space where you'll find guidance, connection, and the tools you need to create lasting emotional health and resilience. Check out the links in the description below to learn more. And before you go, make sure to tune into our next episode. It's one that you won't want to miss. Until next time, take care of yourself, and remember, emotional health isn't about just feeling good. It's about building the foundation for a longer, healthier, and more joyful life. I'll see you soon.